Greetings, everyone. Greetings. You are in for an amazing episode. Uh, I just can't wait. So, again, welcome to Beyond Boardroom Business. I'm your host, Coach Stephanie, and I am so thrilled to share this next interview with you all. Here at Beyond Boardroom Business, this is where I, Coach Stephanie, am honored to be able to interview trailblazers and interview entrepreneurs, leaders, and discuss personal growth. And tonight, I'm telling you, I have none other than Her Excellency Dr. Ameena Ali. And let me just give you a little bit of her bio. I mean, it's so long. She has so many alphabets behind her name. I'm telling you, this lady here, get your pens and paper, whatever you do to take notes, because you're going to learn something tonight. So let me just give you a tidbit of who she is, and then I'll interview her, and then you'll find out the rest of how amazing she really is. So again, Her Excellency Dr. Ameena Ali is the founder and executive director for the Federation of International Gender and Human Rights. Okay. She's an emissary for Global Goodwill Ambassadors of the Republic of the Gambia. And she's a former president for the Rotary International E-Club of Social Innovators. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let's bring on Her Excellency Dr. Ameena Ali. Greetings. How are you today?
Hey, Stephanie, how are you? It is so good to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, of course. Of course. I mean, when I read your bios, I mean, just pulling your name up on the internet is just, you have done so much. And I just love it. I just love it that I get to interview you and just find out what makes you so great,
Oh,
because you're not common.
yeah,
Yeah.
I've been told that. Oh, that was nice. I like that one. I like that one, Stephanie.
Yes, I'm so happy to have you here tonight. You know what I mean.
Yeah.
So, without further ado, can you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Well, I am a servant first. I'm a polymath of everything gender and human rights, and I am fame adjacent to my mission and purpose to serve.
Ooh.
With that said, I've had a lifetime of experiences, and some of them have correlated to being a veteran of the armed forces for 11 years. That's what paid for medical school. I was in medicine for 30 years, obstetrics and gynecology, and having a home birth midwifery practice. And I was able to squeeze out a few children myself into that schedule. And to date, I have 14 grandchildren. So this
Wow.
is a huge tribal effort that I am now in retirement to be able to enjoy. So that's the things that make me smile. But the work still continues because in my retirement, I am now teaching at Harbor Heritage University, and that is the first and only university of gender and human rights right here in New York. Fully accredited for a bachelor, master's, PhD, and chaplaincy program. And
Mm.
we are fitting a new class to come in as of Wednesday. They start class on Wednesday. So I'm excited to be in the mix of teaching now. Being an educator and being an academician in gender and human rights is truly something exciting to wake up to every day.
Oh, I am so sure. Oh my gosh. You have to tell me, how did you get started with all of this? How did this come about?
It was by accident. First and foremost, I was a baby when I caught my first baby. And I say that because I think I was 18 years old when I had the experience of catching my first baby. Mommy was in the back of the ambulance with her husband who had chest pains and didn't know she was in active labor, first baby. And by time we got from her house to the hospital, We had husband, wife, and new baby in the back because she actually gave birth in the back of the ambulance. So that was an experience, and I was bitten. But over the years, after finishing school and coming into my own, I realized that we needed more than just the overview of what medicine gives. We needed to do something other than pill push and swamp you in insurance paperwork. There was a thing called education, and part of what it is that I saw was that women were having babies ignorantly. Now, I'm not saying that the act of having a baby doesn't come with wisdom, but I'm saying they're saying to me afterwards, I wish I knew, I wish this happened, I wish I had, I didn't even know. All of these things after the fact. I didn't even know breastfeeding was an option. True story. There were women that were over and hypersexualized with their pregnancy, whether they were a victim of domestic violence, they were raped by their husband, their body was sexualized instead of brought into an empowerment to help her with baby. She's having a home birth in a home that is violently domesticated. She is a victim of FGM, having this baby. So not only is she having a baby through fistula, which is the smaller where, after the FGM, the vagina closes up. So you almost have to cut it to have baby. So not only is she birthing through a pain that is abnormal, but she's not experiencing what it is to have a natural birth because of all the surgical apparatus and procedures. So she's traumatized. So now you have to heal both the wound and the woman.
Yes.
And you're healing that as she is trying to nurture and tend to baby. So all of these dynamics made for unpleasant birth experiences, and they all are of women that look like me. And I kept, there's something wrong here. There's something definitely wrong. I came from a generation where grandma had 15, 16, 18 children at home because she couldn't afford to go to the hospital and because that's all she could do. She was birthed through a midwife. There was no C-sections. There was no Pitocin. There was no epidural. There was no pain management. She had a baby. She went back out in the field, or she went back in the house and took care of the other 6 that she had. So the idea that I came from a generation of that, birthing women in a generation that has 2 babies and one of them dies, or she dies after the second baby. Why is this happening? These are generation of women that come from my grandmother. Like, why is this happening? So I had to dig deep and figure out that it didn't happen overnight. And it happened because education was being suppressed. We were not talking about our births. We were talking about sex. We weren't talking about having babies. We were talking about pregnancy. We weren't talking about what our body is doing. We're talking about just have your period. Once you have your period or you miss your period, you must be pregnant. And then we jump into pregnancy. So there was not an educational rite of passage or an educational formidable understanding of your reproductive system, or we were just ignorant in our own right to what we were doing as women, and we weren't teaching by example. So that's where I went. I decided that instead of having a 15-minute quick prenatal visit, my mommies were coming in and they were having 1-hour visits because 30 minutes was the prenatal exam with instruction. And then 30 minutes was answering questions and having an educational session. And no, I didn't have many women, of course, because in an 8-hour period, you could probably only have 6 women. But it was the point that each of those women had empowered births. And I had 4 and 5 and 6 children after that. One of my children, one of my daughters has 9 of them born at home because she grew up with the education. So it was easy for her to have a baby. It was really quick, painless. She literally, one baby, she was eating popcorn, having the baby, and then went back and watched the movie while I was tending to the placenta. And, right. When we tell stories like that, it's because moms are empowered. And this is where I wanted all of my mommies to be. So that's how we began. And then FIRE, the Federation of International Gender and Human Rights, came because I was dealing with international women of foreign parentage that was coming to this land, either pregnant or newly impregnated. And they had to go from old school to new school really quickly and get a crash course on how we birth in the United States. and then what it is that they never had as far as education back home. So we did the international piece, we did the domesticated education, and then we did the home birthing because that's what they were used to back home. And we had to do that in like 10 months. So it was, yeah, each woman was a crash course, but I think it was good to know in giving that the woman left with a better understanding as to what was happening, how it was happening, and the power she had to make it happen.
Wow. So why is there such ignorance? Why aren't the mothers prepared? Why aren't they teaching that in sex ed? Or is it too early, too soon for that? Or
No.
what's the missing link? What's going on?
Persistence and consistency. Persistence to make sure that we're getting taught, and then consistently to have the education available. In our demographic, being of the diaspora or the BIPOC community, Black and Indigenous people of color, we don't value the worth of getting education free. We think there's a catch, or if someone is offering something, we don't go after it because there's a price attached to it. Or we feel as though we don't value the worth of the instruction because we automatically go to, I can't afford it. So one of the things that we're missing in society is affordable education. Now, we say that with such flippantness, affordable education. We've heard it before. We've seen it. We've been to free schools. But there is a value to the worth of what it is that you're getting. Now, we used to have home ec. We used to have cursive writing. We used to have phonics in our schools. But what I see that the school system, the environment, the community, those in charge are seeing is that when we had those things, we were more empowered. When we were able to do a write in cursive, we had a font, and I use that word, that was personal. Everybody had a different cursive writing that was unique and different. And you can tell who went to the parochial schools or the Catholic schools because those are the ones that had the best handwriting. You can tell the ones that went to a public school because they knew cursive, but it was real fast, almost like a doctor's handwriting. And then there was a personalization of the in between. Maybe you did a year in public school and a year in private school and meshed it in between. But it was a personal script that we had. When we had home ec, women were learning how to cook and then went home to learn how to burn, as we call it. So we knew how to boil water and make toast and make grilled cheese and all the things that home ec taught us. But then when grandma got us, it was, okay, if you're going to make grilled cheese, you're going to make it with a thick piece of cheese, put some garlic on the toast, all of the intricacies that was of the village, of the family, of the tribal piece. But unfortunately, we have single moms in our homes. We don't have grandma, or grandma is probably 30. And we don't have we have single moms, and we don't have that village raising the children anymore. So mom is at work most of the time. Grandma is still at work because she's still so young, because she had her baby young. And we're repeating the cycle of having young babies by young mothers that are not ready to be a mom. Now, there's a difference between having a baby and being a mom. Having a baby is a physical act. Being a mom is a tribal thing. And we have lost that act of being a mom in the setting up of that time, that I call it tribal teachings. So the handing down of, I always use the fish in the fry pan. Grandma, you would see grandma cut off the head and the tail and put the fish in the fry pan, and you see the mom asking, well, why did you cut the fish, the head and the tail off? And she would like, that's how you do it. And that's what you do. So then the daughter comes and she's asking mom, why do you cut the head and the tail off? Well, that's what your grandma did, and that's just what you do. So now the daughter is having a baby, and now the daughter has a different view, and she says, well, mom, why did you cut it off? And she goes to the grandma, and the grandma says, I don't know why your mother just didn't tell you. It was because I needed to fit the fish in the pan. Now, here we're thinking it's just the way we cook fish, when really it was a simple answer as to taking the head and the tail off, because it helped to fit in the pan. But here's the thing. I use that in jest. But can you imagine the other lessons that we're missing because we don't have that family time, that net worth? that network of time together, because mom is working late, grandma is still working, so she's really not cooking at home, or daughter really doesn't understand the importance of cooking at home because she's never had that or seen that in a historical value in the home. So now we have 3 generations that just had babies and really didn't understand the art of parenting or being a mom. So how do we break that cycle, and how do we get back to having the village raise the baby while the mom raises herself? Ooh. And that's education. So one of the things that and to more importantly answer your question is, Fire decided that we were going to offer our classes in the scope of where we were. So if we were in a OB meeting or OB visit, then that's where you got educated. If we had a chat and chew on the weekend where I bring food and just have them come and ask questions, and whatever question they have, I answer it so that everyone can get the answer, it's a free class and I bring food. Then if we had a Soulful Sundays where a husband and wife comes together and they have questions about being a parent, and we sit down and we talk with religious leaders and houses of worship so that we can talk about the spiritual adaptation of parenting. Yes. Now we have community coming involved. So now we have the pastor and the deacon and the pastor's wife and all of them helping those parents now parent and mother and father that child. So this is what we do, and we are bringing that back. So we're making each person that has a title and label and wants to ordain it in society orchestrated in action. And this is one of the things that we are very proud of doing. So if you have a title and label, don't be mad when I ask you to use it, because we are going to make sure that the couple, or at least the mother, is getting the education she needs.
Wow. Are you the only one that's spearheading this? Is it just in New York?
No.
Okay.
It's in Atlanta, but again, there's a lot of chiefs and not enough Indians in Atlanta. I was there for about 7 years teaching. I opened one of the doula programs, A Mother's Peace. Was one of the first doula programs in Atlanta to have a 5-10-week doula course for Indigenous women. And I taught there. You can see on my website, you'll see it is now expanded to Grace, GRRACEE, National Doula Academy. So if you go to FIGHR.org, you'll see Grace National Doula Academy. And that picture that's there is the very first class of Indigenous women. I had a Saraset, I had Nuwapian, I had Indigenous American, I had African American, I had first geners in there. And out of those women, each of them represented a class of women that is misrepresented, left behind, pushed behind, or labeled as other in our society. And now they were able, in that doula program, take it back to their community and be the doula for their community. So that was a huge thing. But of course, once I started doing that, all of the older women in the community was, who is she? And who is she to do that? And who told her to come here to Atlanta from New York to do this? And why is she here? And then it was the cat call of trying to find out who I was through disingenuine conversation. So now we have the cattiness amongst us, which is what we're noted for, unfortunately. But the gist of it is the information didn't go out the way it was supposed to. And then other, let's just say, non-melanated communities came out and did the same exact thing, and they were welcomed with open arms.
Wow.
So, yeah. And that kind of stirred the pot that maybe I need to bloom where I'm planted, and came back to New York. And now New York, NYU is now officiating a doula program so that you can be certified through a universal offering. We are doing health and hospitals, which is the almost like the Emory or the DeKalb medical similarity here in New York is called health and hospitals. And they are picking it up so that doulas can now come into the hospital and be trained in the hospital. So again, you got to go where you're, you are celebrated, not tolerated. So I brought it back home, and we are doing well. And we have graduated well over 200 doulas to date since 2004. And that is a good number because we know that at least 200 women are bringing it back to their customary traditions. And they are now training. After 5 years, you get a train-the-trainer course. And now you're able to train others in your community. So we have Hebrew Israelite. We have, like I said, Nawapian, Asara Set. We have Zoroastrian. We have, what is that in Jamaica? Rastafarian. We of course, the Muslim, Christian, and the Pentecostal, holiness, you name it, we probably have in the diaspora. And one of the things that I really like is they're bringing it back to celebrate birthing in their community. So now we're having those conversations around rites of passage in their menses, and they're bringing back ceremonial pieces to menses and having these conversations that mothers didn't have with their daughters years ago. So this is the blessing, and this is the lesson that I've learned in the field of work that I'm in. So thank you for allowing me to share.
Oh yes, most definitely. Now I used to teach yoga to the inmates in jail, to the youth, and what I observed is that the parents were busy, the mothers single, they were busy chasing males. They weren't really focused on their children. And it seems like they really need the education the most. Now, how can you get to those? Because they're the ones that's really popping off the children like crazy, and there's no guidance. Even though I know that it's challenging, how can we penetrate the projects?
Okay, I'm glad you asked that. If you go to our site, Fire, we have a daddy's group, a mommy's group. We have a session for pregnant teens. We have one for pregnant while violently domesticated. We have a intimate partner violence. And then women that, of course, the women that choose to keep their baby after sexual assault. So those that get impregnated after a rape, they decide to keep their baby for cultural, religious reasons, and they need the coaching, if you will. And what we do is we get in there and we, whether they're in jail, whether they're at home, whether they're young, whether they're old, what we do is we educate based on their needs. So if they need to be fully educated because they've never gotten it, we'll go into the jails and we'll have 1 hour sessions twice a month while they're, and we'll talk about their pregnancy, their prenatal visit. We'll talk about what is required versus what they get, so they know how to advocate for themselves. We talk about, like in the prison program we have for the women, we talk about the difference between shackling and restraining, because they stop shackling, but they're still restraining women when they're birthing. So therein lies the advocacy of their voice and what they do. Then we talk about how you can have an established milk bank where you're pumping in the jail, especially if you're minimum security. You can pump your breast, send the milk out to the baby so that you can be bonding with the baby, especially if you have like 3 or 4 months left on your time. You can be sending breast milk out to our lactation experts, and they will be able to give the baby the milk that you have so that you can have the bonding time. And then in return, and the way we do it is, for every satchel you give us, we give you a couple of pictures of the baby. So it's an encouragement. And, once mommy sees baby, it's a release, and it's, helps mommy with the milk. And it's a nice little cyclical thing that we do, but it's an encouragement. She gets more pictures, we get more milk. So everyone's happy, so we do little things like that. And then we give them the education, while we're there and she's pumping. We're talking to her, why are you pumping so much more on the right than the left? Maybe that's, maybe we need to better the left. Or why is it that you don't get as enough milk at night that you do during the day? Maybe we need to drink something before we go to bed. Maybe, little things that would help to encourage her. We also are allowed to bring in certain things that would help them, like maybe be able to teach them how to massage them. So we have teaching lessons, or we have videos that we're able to give to their counselors that are non-YouTube video, like recorded videos. So they're able to sit at a computer and watch the video and get more information when we're not there. So these are things that we're doing to the women. Now, as far as children of incarcerated parents, which are the parents that are, like you say, are so busy chasing something that they're not chasing their children, which is what they should be. These are the parenting classes. Again, if you look at FIRE, we have parenting classes. And these are the classes that explain. Now, what we do is we don't tell you you're a bad mom and you need to do X, Y, and Z. We build on what you already know. So if you have a baby and don't know how to change a diaper, we'll teach you how to change a diaper. But we won't send you to ACS and say you're a bad parent and you don't know how to change a diaper. So
Right.
what we do is build on the skill set you already have and then upskill you as needed. So if you know you don't know how to, let's say, get rid of diaper rash. Some mothers look at that, especially if you're like me and you've had more than one child, you're like, okay, diaper rash. Really, if you just put some breast milk on there, it'll go away. But see, these are things, tricks of the trade that most people don't know. And then just understanding that it's maybe the acid. So maybe you need to stop eating so much acid so that the acid doesn't get into the baby. And then the baby doesn't have the diaper rash, because that's all diaper rash is high acid, high pH acid. So what we are seeing is something as simple as changing your diet will stop diaper rash and it won't be anything you need to do is education that she didn't have. So we build on the things that we do, from finding out if baby has allergies to when is their next immunization. And how do you gauge when you give your baby? Can you delay some of the immunizations? Can you outright refuse some of the immunizations? Most mothers don't think that. They don't know that. Are you able to give your children alternatives to inoculations, naturopathic inoculation? Most women don't do that. And then, speaking on Coach Stephanie's idea of yoga, did they know that they can do yoga at the last 2 months of their pregnancy to help shrink belly? There are yoga techniques that you know that can help tighten and tone and help with the muscle tightness in the pregnancy piece and then the birthing piece. How simple things like Kegling can help with the birth process and then restoring the firmness to the private areas of mommy. But little things like that that they didn't know, because again, they're chasing other things. Now we can chase them down now that they're sitting still, and we can get them that information so that they'll be more the wiser and of course be able to now pass that down.
You got me practicing my Kegelen right now.
Absolutely.
Question. Well, what about prevention? Can you get to the women before they get pregnant to help them with them? Okay.
We have a thing called tender bellies. Tender bellies are women. My youngest mommy that I've ever had was 10. And she was a victim of ancestral molestation. And I say ancestral because he knew that was his daughter. He acted like he didn't. And because she was very voluptuous, very formed, she was impregnated. And there was a high risk that the baby would be abnormal. Now, having a baby at 10 is already beyond stressful, but to know that the baby may be, malformed or may not make it or may have, some kind of gene splice that may not allow maybe the brain to form or the heart to form or something. So we had to brace her for that. Now, one of the things that we did with her specifically, and I'm using this as an example as to how we taught and how tender bellies came to be, is we made sure, one, that she was educated on her pregnancy, not a generalization. We used her pregnancy to teach her about pregnancy. Then we use what it is that she is around and surrounding. So if she has a cousin or sister or an aunt that is able to give her a hands-on experience, well, this is what worked for me. So if we have A and A doesn't work, B is the experience of the sister or the aunt that may work. So now there is a connection. I'm going to be with you during your pregnancy and you become my doula vicariously. So now there is a bond with the younger daughter. Now she has a mentor. She also has someone that is experienced that can kind of guide her. So my voice is not the only one that she hears. However, what we also do is we bring the whole tribe into this. So while the father was being arrested, that's an advocacy piece we have. Her mother came in embarrassed because that's the man that she laid down with. And now he laid down with her kid daughter. She had to come in and get healing. So now we have the houses of worship that come in for the spiritual work.
Wow. Wow.
So now we make it full circle. So Tender Bellies takes the idea of where she is tenderly, and we involve her belly, the pregnancy, in a tribal counseling service.
Wow.
And this is what we do for women under the age of 15. If you're over 15, we have Planned Parenthood that we have, which we call honor parenting. Honor parenting is different than Planned Parenthood because I just despise the organization on the record, and
Yeah.
I am totally against because of who it came from. Margaret Stanger was the founder, and she wanted Planned Parenthood to be a means to an end to sterilize all women that look like me. And I
Yes.
cannot come now 20, 30 years later and say, oh, Planned Parenthood is something different. It's the same name. And I'm just going to see it as, no, I can't.
Yeah.
And that would be irresponsible of me as a professional for me to see it other than what it is, which is a revamping of the
Yeah.
same things that you're doing, which is sterilization of women of color.
Yeah.
So knowing that, we call it honor parenting, which is we honor who we are, we honor our situation, and we parent through where we are. That allows the mother to feel like that there is a value to the worth in the honor that she has and in the integrity she brings forward. So what? You're 15 and you're having a baby. So what? I guarantee you there's somebody in the room that had a baby at 15. That's why you had a baby at 15. So we're not going to put the guilt in there. We're not going to put the shame in there. We're not going to browbeat somebody because they made the same mistake you did, because no one did that to you. They supported you. They got the baby here, and that's what we're going to do for her. So we do things like a community baby shower. And that's when people that have things that are too small for their baby, I now give it to her. So now she comes home with a plethora of newborn clothes that she doesn't have to buy. If my
Beautiful.
baby is 6 months old and your baby is newborn, the newborn Pampers that no longer fit my 6-month-old is now donated to you. Then we have a trade in the hospital where we give them the first 3 packages of newborn diapers, a breast pump, and WIC referrals to lactation soon as she leaves the hospital. If she
Awesome.
is a home birth, then we give her that while she's there. So your doula turns into your lactation consultant, who turns into your postpartum doula. So we
Yeah.
have that already set up before she gets up from having that baby. And that allows her to have that village mentality before the village is formed.
Mm.
So the aftercare is more than 6 weeks. It's more than
Yeah.
8 weeks. It's normally up to the first year. And then
Wow.
we take her by the hand and guide her through what she needs.
Wow, that is beautiful. That is beautiful. That really lets me know. Wow.
Yeah. That
That's
we're here.
beautiful.
We're here.
Yes. I'm so thankful that you're here. It's making a big difference. Thank you for that. But doctor, let me know, how do you unwind? You do so much. How
I
do
don't.
you relax?
I don't. I don't. Even in retirement, I have grandchildren now that are pulling at me. And it was like one of those things where you were scared to even tell your children that you were retiring, because as soon as you did that, it was like a loud bell. Oh, free babysitting, So be- between the grandchildren and trying to get fire underway internationally and the school federally accredited, that's our next step. I don't unwind. What I do is I probably just lay here and watch Law and Order until it watches me. That's my unwinding thing. And that's my guilty pleasure. I have my ginger beer and some
Oh,
popcorn. I do my, I
that's
do my Law and Order, and then someone finds me on the couch and taps me and says it's time to go to bed.
Now, with that said, how do you prevent burnout?
For someone that doesn't recognize it because we were not taught about it, that's a good question. And
Oh,
one that I am still answering. Women of color that have been in medicine have been burned out and we didn't even realize it. We
wow.
have to do it because no one else is. So whether it is our time of the month or we're going through menopause or anything in between, we have to show up because no one else is. So
Mhm.
when we go through burnout, we see it as, oh, I caught a cold,
Mm.
or my feet hurt, or my hands are swollen and I don't understand what I did or ate differently.
Right.
They're not
Right.
swollen because you ate too much salt. They're swollen because your thyroid is probably hyperactive, and it's because you are stress induced in your activities a day,
Wow.
between the caffeinated products and the processed foods to not getting enough time to sit down and drink a bottle of water, let alone a gallon, which is required.
All
We
right.
are not able to flush our system of the stress, of the cortisol, of the toxicity, and of the day. I just told you I got ginger beer and popcorn, and then I'm watching the box, and that's not de-stressing. There is no yoga, there is no meditation, there isn't these flighty, good feeling things that are happening in our lives because we are required to show up. Now, when we get more people educated, we'll have more people teaching, and maybe by the time I'm 90, I'll be able to rest because I'll have so many people educated and teaching and passing it down that maybe I can now rest. But until then, we must work.
Woo. Yes, you are definitely tapping into your calling, and you definitely earned your wings. I'm so thankful to have met you, and
Yes. Thank
and
you.
we're working together on the power of 33.
Mm.
Yes, and that is an anthology of 33 authors, trailblazers that are doing things. I mean, you are a prime example of why you need to be in that book. So I want to thank you for being a part of the book,
Absolutely. Absolutely. I would not have done it any differently. The power of 33, just lyrically in the numerology of it, is such a powerful number. It is such a divine number that for you not to be a part of it, it would almost lead me to believe that your spirit, your third eye is just not open yet. So,
Yes. And,
it would lead me to believe that.
yeah. And people say the third eye, but I call it the first eye.
Oh, yes. Say that. Oh, I'm going to use that. Yes. Note to self. Yes.
Please do. Yes, yes, yes. Wow. I really enjoyed speaking with you. How can people find you?
Well, as you said, if you Google Ameena Ali, and you see how I'm dressed, this is my brand, this is my branding look. So you'll see me on Google and the exchanges of the internet. But to get me directly, you can go to what is going across your screen now, FIGHR.org. Really simple, really easy. The acronym stands for the Federation of International Gender and Human Rights. It is a non-for-profit social impact agency that allows you to be a part of the solution, fame adjacent to the education that is necessary. And in there, there's a contact button. You can go in there and it'll send you to an email. Send me an email. When I reply, all of my contact information is at my signatory. And you're more than welcome to reach out to me for anything you want to do, any classes you want to have, or if you are available to be one of the trainers or the next doula that will come forward to answer the call in that mission.
That is so beautiful. I wish I could do that, but I pass out at the sight of blood. I don't know what the mental.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, if you recall the movie The Passions of the Christ, I tried to
Yeah.
close my eyes and I heard the blood and I still passed out. I
Oh,
don't know
wow.
what it is, but
Wow.
I love helping people, but just for some reason, just blood. But I used to dissect all types of things growing up, so I don't get it. But why we need people like you, Doc. We need people like you, and I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate it. Is there anything you would like to leave the listeners, the viewers?
Yes, I would like to challenge your listeners. I would like each person that's listening, male or female, to reach back to someone in your family, a cousin, an aunt, a sister, a brother. And I want you to share a birth story or share a story about your reproductive health. Everyone is going through a menses of some sort, or even if you haven't gone through, you've gone through puberty, just to be able to get to adulthood. Men have gone through it in their reproductive, how they attain their reproductive abilities, or women sharing your birth story with someone, just speaking your birth story from beginning to end, from when you knew you were pregnant or found out you were pregnant, going through the doctors, how you felt, were you sick all the time, did you have a C-section? Just share your birth story. And the reason why I say that is because we will share an Instagram page quicker than we will share something personal about ourselves. We will put our new love on that got us pregnant, but we won't talk about the cycle of getting pregnant to birth so someone else can be educated. So I want each of you to share your birth story. So if you had a baby, share it. If it's a miscarriage, raise your voice in allowing someone else to hear your testimony so that someone else going through that can hear that they're not alone. If you have had an abortion, speak on that, because there's shame behind that. But there is no shame behind you making that decision. So there shouldn't be shame about you speaking about it. That is your choice. It is personal and only you can make it. I am a midwife and I am pro-choice. I'll say that again. I am a midwife and I am pro-choice because that choice is only yours. It is job security for me to have a baby. But if you are not ready to have that baby, let's educate you on how you can do this safely, how you can do this intelligently, and how you can come out of this healed before you go on that table. And I want each of you to begin to tell your story. Raise your voice, sound the alarm, so that there is someone that is going to come behind you that will not feel scared, sheltered, misused, abused, or muted for any way or any reason. They will be able to have someone that they can come to, go to, and be with through the advocacy and support of proper and healthy reproductive cycles.
Wow, man. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh my gosh. I love it. So I really enjoyed this segment with you, and I'm definitely going to bring you back in a couple of weeks, months to see what's going on with everything that you're putting together. Thank you again.
Well, stay tuned. I have a disaster preparedness and readiness program for women in crisis. And we're going to we started with Katrina and we finished in COVID, but we're going to move it forward so that those that are in domesticated crisis or those that are fleeing from sexual trafficking or human trafficking, they can have a safe space also to be in congruency with health. So that's the next step. And we're going to talk about what that's going to look like for the communities of color.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate you, Her Excellency Dr. Ameena Ali. Thank you so much.
Most welcome. Thank you for
All right, everyone. Oh my gosh, I so thoroughly enjoyed that. And again, as she challenged you, take on that challenge. Don't just listen to what was said, act on it and just watch. I mean, we are the saviors that we've been waiting for. We each have to do our part. I always say each one reach 10. So please do your part. And that's what I love about Beyond Boardroom Business. Trailblazers like Her Excellency Dr. Ameena Ali is no joke. I mean, she is the real deal. And I love what I do. And again, make sure you check out thepowerof33.com. You will see the 33 authors of this anthology. These are powerful people putting it together to help you and your loved ones. It's time about getting together. Let's cease the drama. We are here for a reason, and let's pursue it positively. I hope you enjoy it again, Beyond Boardroom Business, with your host, Coach Stephanie. Again, I was just blown away from this episode, and I hope you look forward to next week's episode as well. I'm going to have another powerful person there. But until then, please stay positive, stay productive, and stay prosperous. This is your host, Coach Stephanie, and I look forward to seeing you again next week. Peace.